Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Lunch Table Podcast. If you're new to the channel, please stick around and make sure you like and subscribe. We are on the last episode of Andor Season 1. I'm so sad to be finally wrapping up this series for Season 1. But it was a great episode, and overall, I love this series so far. So without further ado, Akram, what were your thoughts on the final episode?
Again, it was powerful like the last episode. I think it was beautifully done. It showed an ensemble of people finally uniting. Under also Marva giving a beautiful speech. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And we got some resolution to where Andor might go a little bit later, like a great tease at the end. I think everything was wonderful. And if you guys haven't watched the episode, go watch the episode and stay towards the end of the credits because you're going to see something phenomenal. But Dylan, let's get started with your thoughts though.
Yeah, I'm so sad. It was a great series overall.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved every character moment that we got. We even got like some final thoughts on like Mon Mothma, Luthen, Vel. Yeah, great finisher and like great cliffhanger as well for future events. I'm glad this isn't the finality for Andor. I'm glad to see like we're gonna see what goes on like after this. So it's not like a total like prelude to Rogue One, so there's still like elements left that he still has to like fix up. So he's not yet the Andor that we see in Rogue One. He's getting there slowly, but we definitely see in this episode he's starting to change. He's starting to become that rebel, and he's starting to become a leader too, which is really cool. Yeah, this episode starts. We see, well, first of all, we see this kid. He's on Ferrix, and he's actually like building this like bomb. And it kind of like sets the mood for the rest of the episode. And the whole like funeral procession for Marva had this like great like tension. The whole like there was no music. Well, there was music. They were like playing these like instruments, so it felt like an actual like funeral procession. But it was very tense. It was very quiet. There was like only like a few episodes of or like a few scenes of dialogue. It kind of reminded me of the funeral procession from The Dark Knight when they had like Commissioner Loeb's funeral, and then you're just waiting for like something bad to happen. But yeah, what were your thoughts on this episode?
Yeah, it kind of lacked score at some scenes, and the score was actually done by the extras, the characters there. And I think the way how they handled that, it felt like it sucked you into the scene, and you did feel kind of this tension going on, especially with the Empire and everyone there like getting ready for something. It looked like everyone's getting ready for battle. The guy hammering as well. Kind of seems like we're going to start a war here, or we're going to start something new. And again, the whole thing was very powerful because you get to see that people have this realization of this ideology that the Empire is bad and we need to unite and we need to rise against them. And I think that was a great precedence also for Rogue One. Again, this is a wonderful prequel to Rogue One, not just because of Andor, but because the other characters, the people of this small village as well. You get to see that, like underlining seeds are sprinkled without. I think the way how that's handled is beautiful. And this episode, I think, didn't lack action whatsoever. I don't think it was boring whatsoever as well. And I think the storytelling through the cinematography definitely built up a lot of like excitement for me while watching. And there was great dialogue moments as well. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a weird. It's weird because it's one of those shows where it doesn't have very like powerful characters like Jedi or Mandalorian. It's very very down to earth, right? So you have like these very generic people with a certain set of skills, but it's their strength is in their tactics and their intelligence and like coming together, and the way that they plan things. I think is really cool, like to see on screen, because like. When you watch like a Star Wars like movie or something, like you never really like see those smaller details, right? The people that actually make up the universe. And I think this was a great way of presenting that. And I just love how like the show also kind of like handles like the different cultures on different planets. I think it's so beautifully done. Like the way they did the Aldani thing was cool, and how they have like a here on Ferrix. It feels like you're actually like involved in this parade. Like this is like something they've been doing for years, and it feels so natural just watching on screen.
Yeah.
And all the actors were great. All the extras, I think, were just so natural like, to watch on screen. And I also love just when they had like Nemec's kind of like manifesto playing in the background, because you forgot that he died like in one of some of the later episodes, but his statement I think is really the driving force for Andor in this episode, because now he's starting to realize that no matter what he does, like he could retire like on some fucking like Miami Beach or some shit, but no matter what he does, the empire is gonna be there, right? So I think he's starting to come to terms with like now he actually has to do something because otherwise Marva died in vain, right?
Yeah, and this whole episode again, I since the beginning, it kind of felt like the episode of realization and the episode of I would say breaking through that wall to finally unlock your potential. And I think again the extras really made this show, or at least this episode, and that's phenomenal. I think that's revolutionary. One gripe we do have is that there is a lack of aliens, coming around, and I wonder though. Perhaps now I understand that that's probably intentional because it would come off kind of like you wouldn't really put yourself in the alien shoes. It would be really awkward. Maybe it would have been silly. So the way how it's like, it's very human. The story is very human. And now I'm starting to understand that is why. And everyone has their own motivations, but it's ultimately to get some good out of something, even if that good may be strewed. And I think that's where you kind of live in the gray. And that's why I feel like this is very revolutionary. And I think the stakes will be even higher next season. But I wanted to ask you, because I think just to get this out of the way, because Mon Mothma's character wasn't really in this episode as much. It wasn't a very like heavy thing. What do you think about what happened with her daughter? That I did not expect that whatsoever.
I kind of saw it coming. Like they already showed us what was happening in the other episode. Like the daughter was like preparing, for this kind of like arranged marriage thing. I didn't expect her husband to actually like have like gambling debts. I thought that was a weird thing that kind of threw in at the last episode.
Yeah.
It was kind of like this last plot point that they made. I thought she was actually gonna like fix her like bank accounts or some shit. But I think this kind of adds like another stake because now, the ISB is watching her more because of her husband. So they're probably going to be paying more attention to like her, her finances. But I think I love that scene, like the whole car ride. I think there was such a weird dialogue. It was a hard conversation for her to have with her husband, and the driver's also like kind of like a spy too for the Empire.
He's listening. Yeah, I was like, you sneaky bastard. She told you to mute it. He was listening.
But it'd be so awkward. Like they weren't even like talking about like their finances. I'm sure they were talking about like spicy things or something.
Like, the spice melange,
right? Or they were talking about like divorce or some shit. That would have been so awkward.
He just looks back. He's like,
but yeah, what did you think about Mon Mothma, and what do you expect we'll see with her?
So what happened with her husband, I wonder if she could use it to her advantage as a cover up. Like he's extremely addicted to gambling and being an asshole. So this is why I don't have money. And this is where the money went. And I wonder if this will be the leeway to their ultimately like their divorce, because obviously we haven't seen anything about her family and other iterations of Star Wars property. So perhaps this is the way how he kind of disappears from the equation. Maybe they arrest him and she frames him because she doesn't really have a strong relationship with him. And by doing that, the daughter is also separated to an extent, and now will be even more so just because she's going to marry someone apparently, right? So Mon Mothma took that step for the greater good, which is a very hard choice. So you could see how dedicated she is. And I think that that's something that she could dangle over Luthen and say, well, hey, you think you gave up everything? I gave up my daughter. And so now you have these two elements where it makes sense for them to disappear from her life, thus giving her the freedom to move forward and become the Mon Mothma we know.
And that's her sacrifice, right? Right. This whole series, I was wondering, like, what's she gonna have to give up, for her to like fully commit to the rebellion? But that's a good point that you made, because it's her family, right? Her family is so invested in this culture of privilege and this society that they live in on Coruscant. But I think she has to finally cut ties with that to realize that there are more important things in the galaxy than just having like a successful family, right? So that's a great point that you made.
Yeah, it's hard. It's tough. I mean, especially being a mother, it's really hard. But I guess going back, girl, I just want to say I do still ship Cyril and Dedra because I felt something. Girl, well, we'll talk about that.
That's my OTP of 2022.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we saw Cyril not eating cereal this episode. I just love that bus scene. I was so awkward. Like he was just like fixing his hat and
I
just
was
had,
like,
like had this
what was up
close
with
up
that?
shot.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
like, something's gonna happen.
he was on SEPTA or some shit.
That makes sense now. Okay.
He was on the L. Yeah, he comes back because he's looking for Andor, and during that whole kind of like riot scene, I love that like all these people are looking for Andor too. Like there's just so many factions
Right.
with different reasons for looking for Andor. Like the Empire's obviously looking for him because they're looking for Luthen. Luthen's looking for
Right.
Cassian because he has too many knowledge about him, and then Cyril just has like a personal vendetta with him. So I love that like they just have like different POVs.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Deidre like in this episode too, like she feels like I think this is a great way to show her vulnerability and to show that not everybody in the Empire has like military experience. It feels like most of them are just these very bureaucratic officers that are just in positions of power, and they're so used to their power that when it's an actual like battle happening, they're so vulnerable and they really have no control. And this whole the setup that they had was like Deidre, like she was like setting up this whole operation. She had like all these military guys, so she felt like she was in control of the whole episode. And then when that whole fucking riot breaks out, she kind of like loses her mind. She's like all over, like she's actually like scared as shit. Like what's oh fuck. And then Cyril kind of like steps in, like a white knight, and then he he saves her from that whole. I actually thought they were like mad, like gonna kiss for some reason because they were so close. I don't know why. I
really
was like,
did.
oh, are they gonna kiss? Like,
It's like Euphoria vibes. And I was like,
shit. I know. I was like, ooh. Fuck.
I was like, okay, this took a turn.
But then
for
it kind of
something.
like it cut, and then we didn't see them for the rest of the episode. So do you think like they teamed up or something, or like he got her off world? Like, what do you think happened?
Yeah, that's interesting. I who's to say? I mean, maybe they went on a date or fishing, or probably they
Right.
escaped somehow. I think this is good, but it's also one criticism I have, because a lot of like the Empire generals and stuff like that, they come off as kind of like this Joffrey type of character from Game of Thrones. Like all of them, the way how like they react to things. I do want to see if maybe this is a great chance to show Deidre change. Like I want to see somebody that's sympathetic, but I have to do this. And I wonder through her journey with Cyril, wherever they go, I wonder if she'll kind of. Well, you know what though? It actually probably will be a toxic relationship, because I thought that Cyril will kind of change sides or notice something, and it seems like no, he's dead set on capturing Andor, and you have somebody else to fuel that revenge and ambition, I guess. Yeah, they probably escaped somewhere, most likely. A lot of the Empire died too. And what did you think of Marvel's speech though? Because Marvel's speech was really, I think, made people.
That was so powerful, man.
Yeah.
That felt like that pretty much set like the whole thing off. Was that whole like you thought like Andor was gonna like trigger this whole battle, but it was actually Marvel, right? And she's actually dead too, so it's even more powerful. That her last words, kind of like was the spark of rebellion, right? And I think the actress who played her, she was so great. The way she delivered it, um, yeah, it feels like you were watching like a State of the Union address or something.
Right.
It was just so powerful, and the way they set it off, like with the protesters, it felt like I was watching like I don't know, like Ferguson, Missouri, or some like big protests happening, and just like seeing like the Empire, because you saw like snippets of like reality at times, like the way like the Empire is like very oppressive. Even that one stupid guy, where he was like open fire, like you just saw like the corruption in the Empire, right? Yeah, it was very very heavy scene, and just watching all those deaths happen, man, it was just so hard to watch at times. Even if it is like a sci-fi movie, like you still feel like those like could be like actual people.
Well, then, because, yeah, exactly. And that's why, again, it makes sense that there aren't that many aliens, because this is a very, human story, and it's a very powerful story just because of that. So we could relate. And I think that's why it became very emotional and powerful. Again, I think the key word from last episode and this episode is powerful. And so people can show power, not by one person, but by unifying this idea. And that's strong. And that lives forever. And that's what we needed to see, because that makes sense. Now I understand the rebellion. Just because at this moment, it makes sense. It's not all paint on a hot, like, car, right? we see the
Mhm.
inner workings of it, and we see the people who make it. And I think that's wonderful. I would love one day to see something about the Empire. I would love for a
Mhm.
twisted sense of, well, we're doing the right thing. I would love for them to kind of see if they could change my mind somehow. And if they can do that,
Mhm.
then I think now we have a really gray type of war. It's like, I don't know what to think anymore. Right. And I
Right.
think that's wonderful.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like it's like everybody was involved in this, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't just like a few people like Bix or Andor. It was like everybody was involved. Even the bell ringer,
Yeah.
like when
Boom.
when he Sparta kicked the stormtrooper
I
off the tower,
know.
I was like, oh fuck,
I thought that
that's how you know the stormtroopers are ass. Like how you get kicked off by the bell ringer?
he literally was like,
Right.
he gets kicked. Well, I thought that they were going to shoot the bell ringer with like some cannon. Let's go.
That's what I thought. I was like, why'd you just like had like a sniper or something like? But he literally like went up all those steps and then got kicked off the. I was surprised they didn't do like the Wilhelm scream for that.
I know. I know. Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, it was crazy, and even fuck, I forgot the droid's name. B2. He's so cute. I just wanted him to survive. I was like, if they kill him, I'll be so mad.
He got knocked
like, I just
over.
want him to survive.
Yeah, I felt bad for
Yeah.
him. You know, I still love his design.
There was a lot of crazy deaths in this whole episode. Even that one guy, like you just like they stuck with his face for like a few like minutes, just like you saw like his eyes were like open the whole
When he
time.
jumped, I actually laughed though. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, "What were you expecting?"
Right.
I was like, They
Right.
shot him. I felt bad, but
Right, but it's crazy you actually mentioned the Empire too, because there were a few people that actually like leaked information. Like that one guy, like he like ratted out Andor, but then like he changed his mind at the end, but then he got killed. So it's like it shows you like there are people working for the Empire not because they believe in this shit. It's like just because they're poor and like they just want a better living. So that's like they have to cut deals sometimes. It's like it's kind of like when you're like bribing cops or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, people just have like different struggles, right?
right.
But yeah, I would love to see like more, like you said, like of the Empire and like what people's mindsets are. Like well, in the comics they kind of go into like the Empire. Like some of them they come from like very like distinguished families, and they kind of like go into the Empire like thinking they're gonna be like a powerful officer or something. Um, but yeah, Andor is kind of just like that. And then there's some people like Han Solo that's just like wanted a different life, so they had to enlist or something. So I would love to see like more of that explored in like season 2.
I think it's important. Yeah.
Yeah. But going into the final moments of the episode, so after this whole battle happens, Luthen goes back to his ship, and it's funny because we didn't see much of Luthen. Well, we did, but like he wasn't doing much. He was kind of just like on the sidelines. Yeah, just watching this whole thing unfold. But he goes back to his ship, and who's waiting for him there is actually Andor. And he gives him the choice. He says, "Kill me or take me in." So I want your whole thoughts and your whole breakdown on that scene.
Yeah. So, well, first I thought that was gonna be Cyril and Deidre, and there I thought that Luthen was going to die. But then when I found that, and I mean, it was weird that Andor, he was going to allow someone to kill him finally at that moment, and none other than Luthen, right? But he only did that once he got everybody safe that he cared about. And it's also weird because he that was his main focus, was protecting the ones that he cares about, and he didn't really help so much in the fight. It was just going after Bix. And so in a way that's kind of selfish. So of course we still have to see Andor. Well, it could also be something where Andor, he's going to fight for the rebellion because he has to have someone that he loves, right? That's the only reason. He's not selfless. Nobody really is at the end of the day. I think it's a really realistic depiction. There's something that he needs, whether payment or love, and he needs to protect that. And so by sacrificing himself, I think that it was, which he didn't, by the way, guys, if you're getting confused, he didn't, but he wants Luthen to kill him. That's what he's saying. You could kill me or take me in. It's like this sacrifice, like I did my job now. This is what I wanted to do to protect these people. So I guess I'm a burden. A lot of people are after me, and I don't want to get anybody else hurt. So just kill me now. And Luthen laughs. I think that laugh was a sign of recognition. Like, oh, okay, you're kind of like me now. Like I kind of started like this, or okay, you got the balls on you, actually finally here. And then now we're going to change some plans. And I think that'll lead into season 2. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. I think Luthen kind of like got played at his own game in that one moment, because Andor could have easily just, had the gun and just waited for him to come back and shoot him, right? But the fact that he actually like gave him a choice, I think Luthen understood that Andor is more of an asset than a liability, right? Because he understands, like, he knows the game well. He's a very good soldier. So I think he knew in that moment, killing him actually would have been more detrimental, because he could still use him for other things, right? Um, so yeah, I think the next season will definitely explore. Like, I think Luthen and Andor are gonna be like this, like very close, and they're probably gonna be doing bigger operations now. And actually, season 2, I would love to see like how they actually got the Death Star information, because we'll talk about the end credits later, but um, like the whole, like, how did they actually, like, well, they kind of explored it in Rogue One, but like I want to see it like leading up to that, like how they actually like found out about the Death Star, like who leaked it. Um, so yeah, yeah, Luthen's a great character too, and I'm glad that they didn't just like kill him off in this season.
Me too.
Because he has so much potential, and we I would love to see like the other rebel factions too, like not just like Saw Gerrera, like what the other like rebels are doing, and kind of like how, well, they kind of alluded that this bigger network is building, right? So I kind of want to see like how the true rebel alliance kind of like forms, right? And Mon Mothma kind of like spearheads, or she's kind of like the symbolic leader to this, but Luthen's kind of like the militaristic, I guess, foundation for this network too, right? um yeah, and then I guess going into the final credits, we actually see the formation of the D1 Death Star happening. And I was right. I knew it. So the parts they were building in the prison were actually used for the Death Star. They showed like the droids were actually using it to build the Death Star. So I thought that was crazy that they did that. And it was so cinematic. Like the way they shot, I was like, holy fuck, you just saw like the scale of the Death Star. And it looked like it was almost finished too, which is crazy. The only thing they needed was like the final super weapon. So yeah, what do you think of that scene?
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of the Celestials from Eternals, that like shot. It felt very colossal. It felt huge, is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, you were right. I wonder what those parts are really for, but I'm glad that you were right. That's awesome. And it brings everything together now as well. I think I love how they get these ideas and they kind of find a way to tie it into Rogue One as well. And you get a sense of timing because they're just putting in like that piece, like the super weapon, right? So they're nearly finished with this project, and I think that's awesome. I thought it was really, really cool, and I wonder if, like you were saying, if they're going to talk about like how are they aware of this Death Star, blah blah blah. I wonder if they're going to show that in the next season, and hopefully we get K2SO, because we kept on wondering where he is, right? Nowhere to be found. So maybe next season we'll get into that. But yeah, that was an awesome end credit. I actually skipped it by accident, so I was like, oh shit, and I had to go back and see that, and it was phenomenally shot as well. Very, very epic. So do you have any final thoughts, and also give us your rating?
Yeah, this was, like I said, a great addition to the Star Wars franchise. I think this was definitely needed. It's a departure from what we've seen before. I mean, just from like the whole Skywalker kind of Jedi thing. I'm glad that they decided to do something different and something more down to earth and very kind of like you said, like very humanitarian kind of like story. I like that they did that, and the way they did it, I think the way they executed each episode was phenomenal. Just from the music, the acting, the cinematography, everything just came together really well. And I hope that they have that same energy for season 2 as well. But yeah, I would give this episode 9 out of 10 for me.
Yeah. I would give this episode a 10 out of 10. I love this episode. It was so powerful. Like the last episode, I think the last episode, I think I gave it a 10 out of 10. I really enjoyed this episode so much. And I really enjoyed Andor season 1. And I think it's revolutionary for the Star Wars canon. I think that introduced other elements, right? You don't have to, you could just be a normal person and you could still light a spark that everybody will see that you're a symbol. It's very powerful. And again, the key is, it's not only about one person, it's about the ensemble, right? You can't do things on your own. And if anything, from all the Star Wars movies, we always see them in groups. So I loved it. Again, 10 out of 10 for me. And everybody, that is our review for episode 12 of Andor season 1. Season 2, we'll see if we're going to get more information a little bit later on. I am so happy to do this with you, Dylan. Another one in the books that we've done. If you guys want also to check out our Handmaid's Tale season 5 reviews, we completed that as well. And this year isn't over just yet. We have a good amount of content coming out. We do have Wednesday Addams, that show that's on Netflix. If you guys forgot, we're going to review that. We have a Walking Dead Revisited that I'm so sorry at the time of this recording. It's coming out a little bit later. And we have a lot of cool Marvel stuff coming at you as well. So Dylan, please take us away.
Yes, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for helping us every day building our channel. We're getting there slowly, but I feel like we're really coming together as a podcast, but we can't do without you guys. So please continue to like, share. Anything helps the channel grow. Of course, we're on YouTube, but of course, we're also on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify as well. You can listen to us on those platforms as well. And you can check us out on our Instagram page and our TikTok page as well. That really helps our channel build as well. So thank you guys for tuning in. And until then, may the force be with you.
May the force be with you guys. See you.